Welcome to Ellie Chat. Your home for exclusive news and commentary on the internet's only podcast about Candlepin Bowling. Brought to you by the Lords of Candlepin, Frank DeLuca and Rich Lamoni. Email the show at alleychat.frankface.net. Now broadcasting from the heart of the Bay State, the host of Alley Chat, FrankFace.
Hello everyone, welcome to Alley Chat, the internet's only Candlepin Bowling podcast. My name is FrankFace. I'm here with my co-host Rich Lamoni. How you doing, Rich?
Good, Frank. How are you?
Okay. You ready to talk about some New England bracket action?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Good.
I've used absolutely twice. I need to mix it up, right? Can't keep saying the same thing.
This is a tournament run by Nick Zuffelato, affectionately known in the Candlepin world as Freshie. He bowls and works out of Metro Bowl in Peabody. A couple years ago, we had a bracket tournament like this where you pay an entry fee. You're randomly drawn into a bracket and you bowl your matches. They're 5-string matches. And the cool thing about it is the houses are also randomly drawn. So not only are you bowling against someone you don't expect to be bowling against or don't know who you're bowling against, you also don't know where you're going to be bowling until your name is drawn out of the hat or the pool. So we have the bracket here, Rich, and we're gonna have some fun with this. We're gonna make some predictions.
Oh yeah, it should be a good time. I think we're gonna have some arguments here.
Perhaps, but that's what makes for good broadcasting.
Absolutely.
So. All right, so we're going to start with the left side of the bracket. The first match in that is John Starner versus Chuck DeRoser at Metro Bowl. Rich, who do you pick out of that?
My sense, Chucky I feel like is explosive, but my thought is that Metro, specifically the house in this case, I think Starner's ball throws a nice slow, smooth ball, is going to work better over the course of 5 strings. So I'm leaning towards Starner.
I'm also going with Starner, considering it was a home house of his for at least 1 year, maybe a couple of years. I'm not sure. I think his ball is going to work better there. His ball spends more time on the plate than Chucky's does. Perhaps that's going to give him some more action for more spare leaves and strikes. Okay, so moving on, next match, we have our recent Pro Series doubles champions, Mark Ricci against Brian Fuller. They just won the Pro Series doubles tournament at Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Brian Fuller bowled amazingly. What do you think, Rich? For my pick, I'm going to have to go with Ricci. I think just because of the experience, the way I've seen Mark bowl before. I don't know that Brian is that familiar with Lucky. I think Ricci may have more experience with it. Therefore, I'm going with Ricci on this.
Well, one of the things that that needs to be said is the fact that Mark Ricci is a great teammate and a great team bowler. But he is an amazing singles bowler.
Right.
I mean, as far as tournaments go, he does very well for himself, and he knows how to battle a one-on-one match better than most of the bowlers that are out there.
I'd agree with you, Rich. We've seen him win the World's Single Championship a couple of years ago, and I think several years ago before that, he went to the finals.
Yes.
In that. So he definitely knows how to stand on his own 2 feet. Meanwhile, Brian Fuller is a fantastic bowler, just like his dad was, but I'm going to have to go with Mark Ricci on this.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, so far we're pretty much agreeing on everything. I fear that that's going to change pretty soon. Next match, we have Nick Norcross, the young lefty, against Dave Malahan. This is at Woburn Bowlodrome. What do you think, Rich?
I think that Nick is fortunate that he drew this house. And Dave Hodge is bowling amazing right now.
He sure is.
He is having a great year. He's looking like the Dave Hodge of old, and I try really hard to say Dave Malahan. I he's my doubles partner at Malden during the summer, so I like to make sure that I call him Malahan because he's my teammate. And as much as I want to pick my teammate, if it was any other house in this tournament, I probably would lean towards him. But I think I have to pick Nick just because it's at Woburn.
I'd have to agree with you. Nick not only bowls there, but works there. So that means at any given time, he's on a slow day, he's picking up his bowling balls and just going to throw however many strings he wants to. And, he does that. He does just that. And it makes him better.
And we shouldn't forget, he has the house record at Woburn.
That's true. A big 210, which was done a couple years ago, I think 2012, in the doubles league with Trisha D'Agostino. If I'm not mistaken, it was a 5-bagger, wasn't it? That did it.
Yes, with an eagle in the last box.
Very famous.
With the last fill ball.
Yeah, Nick is known for throwing the eagle.
Yeah, that is his nickname.
It is his nickname, yes. Yeah.
Eagle.
So, okay, so again, we agree. We have another match, Justin Scally versus Steve Reno Jr., of course, the son of Steve Reno Sr., who is a Channel 5 legend out of Central Western Mass. Rich, I'm going to go with Reno Jr. on this, just because of how hard he throws the ball. The breakups that he gets, the leaves he gets and converts, makes him pretty much unstoppable. He's a fierce bowler, good kid, young kid. He's got the stamina. He can bowl forever, and he just throws that ball like a rocket.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he fires it, and if he gets in the pocket, it's an explosion every time.
Right.
You're going to be looking at 8-9 drops all day as long as he's hitting the head pin. I mean, the thing is, he could have the situation where he throws just a little bit too hard from Malden, but over the course of 50 boxes, I would say he'd be able to figure it out. I don't know that he has any experience bowling at Malden, being from Central Western Mass. Justin Scally does have experience, so that could give him an edge, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think it would be a very close match for 3 strings. I think over the course of 5 strings, the explosiveness of Reno right now is the edge in this match.
Okay, so another match that we agree upon. So we're 4 for 4, Rich. We work well together. Okay, so here we have another match, next match. Dave Godwin versus Dennis Nuzzo at Academy. It's really hard to argue with Dave Godwin's numbers. He's one of the youngest bowlers. He's one of the fiercest bowlers. He's just always, always, always crushing you. It doesn't, if you're going to beat Dave Godwin, you're throwing a 420. More or less. Yeah, something like that. We've seen him throw 470 on Friday night against us. It was just unbelievable. He couldn't miss.
Should have been a 500.
Yeah,
he had 3 doubles, and all of them had 9 drops. Should have been 3 triples.
Yeah. Realistically, yes.
He got screwed. Let's be honest. I mean, he was throwing that good of a ball. It should have been a 500.
I'd agree.
And it was fun to watch. It was fun to get our ass kicked that night, watching him just crush us.
If there's going to be a way to get your ass kicked, that would be the way to do it, by Dave Godwin. So, I think we're both going to pick Godwin over Nuzzo here. So, moving along, we have Sean Baker against Chris Cazenave? I forget.
It's
Cazenave. They're bowling out of Riverwalk.
It's actually Cazenave. Looks like there's a spelling error.
Okay, well, either way, Chris Kaz.
He goes by Kaz.
Yeah, big ups to you, Chris.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, I think the years of experience Baker has, the TV experience, the Pro Series playoffs experience, the pressure he's been under, the Worlds, everything considered, you just got to pick Baker.
Yeah, that was the way I was leaning to. Chris is my teammate on the Sunday once-a-month league up at Park Place. He's an incredible bowler, another fierce competitor. You just got to go with, the years that Sean Baker has compared to the months that Chris Kaz has.
Sure, and the accuracy and the high singles, and it just continues. Okay, so we're going to keep going. The guy running the tournament, Freshie, Nick Zuffelato, is bowling against Matthew Rich at Pilgrim. I don't know Matthew Rich very well. I've seen him around the Pro Series, I think. I've seen him around the bowling alleys, but I don't know much about his average or, his style of bowling. I don't know if he's lefty-righty or anything. I'm going to go with Freshie. He's up around a 121, 122 right now. He bowled incredibly on our team at the Worlds. Just because I know what he's capable of, I'm going to go with Freshie here.
His team, historically, from his Metro team, some of those guys have historically said that Pilgrim's a tough place for them, and he actually fares pretty well there. So, and that's part of the reason why I'm also leaning towards Nick. And mostly it's just because I don't know Matt either, so it'd be hard for me to just say, this guy that I don't know is going to beat this guy that I do know.
Of course.
Of course. So we're both leaning towards Nick in that regard.
Yeah, but as we always know, it could go either way, so we'll have to wait and find out. Next match, Chris Winiars versus John Boudreau at 20th Century Lanes, Hyde Park. This is an interesting matchup, Rich. 2 young guys, 2 great bowlers, one's from New Hampshire, one's from Lynn. What do you think?
This was tough. I mean, as much as you just want to jump out right away and say Boudreau, because he is just that good.
Sure.
You have to stop and think about the place they're bowling at and the type of competitor that Chris is. And in the knockout last year or the year before, he battled John Winchell 50 boxes at Lucky, and it came down to the very end of the match, and ultimately Winchell edged him out. I think Chris has slightly, I know John has been bowling for years, and he's been in tournaments, and he's won, and, I think Chris has just a little bit more experience in some head-to-head things. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm actually going to pick Chris on what you would call an upset.
Okay, so we have our first disagreement here. I'm going to go with Boudreaux, just because, he's been at the World since he was, 18 years old, something like that. Any TV show that's available nowadays, he's been on. He's very tough to compete with. He's just so accurate. He takes the game so seriously, like most of us do. And, he lives, breathes, eats candlepin bowling. And when he's on fire, there's really nothing that can stop him. But perhaps it will be Chris Winiarz. And I think they're friendly with each other, so I think it'll be a good match.
Yeah, this will be a good match.
We have our first disagreement, but we'll see what happens when
That's
they
cancel the show.
Yeah, we're done. Okay, so we have at Woburn Bowlodrome, we have John Winchell against Jessica Stockton out of Metro Bowl. Jess is, a very good bowler. I know she's been up at the women's worlds. I just think that with John Winchell being her opponent, it's going to be tough to compete. John is having a phenomenal year this year, bowling out of Exeter and Academy Lanes, and not only Academy Lanes on Friday nights, but I believe he bowls Thursday nights there too. He's just unstoppable. John's very confident, throws that same ball every single time, same wind-up. He hones in on his target, always hitting his object pin. So I think I'm going to give it to John Winchell.
I tend to agree.
Okay.
I think over the course of time, and Winchell also used to bowl Woburn on the Friday Night Pro League.
Sure.
So he's very used to that house. So this isn't going to be unfamiliar territory for him where, in a situation we talked about a few minutes ago, Matt Rich may have never set foot in Pilgrim.
Okay, our next match. This is going to be a big one, Rich. I know everyone's looking to find out what's going to happen here. This is Jeff Surratt against Dave Barber, two teammates, bowling at Riverwalk Lanes. Rich, this really could go either way. What do you think?
I know that at Viking for the Ultimate Ladder, they faced off against each other, and I remember that Jeff edged him out. It was a very close match, and I'm going to go with Jeff's TV experience simply because he's just been on the show so many times.
Okay.
I don't think I can pick against that. So I think he's so calm, cool, and collected all the time that I just think he's going to have that slight 1 or 2 pin difference over the course of 5 strings against Dave.
1 or 2 pin difference, that's a pretty close match.
Yeah.
But, that's what you'd expect from these two guys. So I am also going to go with Jeff Surratt, having been the Comcast champ and just being all over the place in the papers, on the news, website articles, everything is Jeff Surratt, Candlepin Bowling. He learned how to bowl at one of the toughest places. He grew up bowling out at Candlewood. You can't get any better practice than that. You have to make your shots there. I'm going to give it to Surratt as well. We'll see what happens. Riverwalk's an interesting place, and I think that's a good place for them to have a match.
Yeah, that is as far as the house is listed here, other than 20th Century, I think it would be the most neutral location.
Okay, our next match is Chris Sacchetti bowling against Rob Siciliano. This is happening at Metro Bowl. We've seen Sacchetti explode at Metro Bowl. Hands down, it's going to go to Sacchetti for me. I
would tend to agree. I mean, Rob's one of the fiercest competitors on the ladies. Fiery. I love watching him bowl.
The body English is tops.
When he gets going, it's just such a treat for everybody that's watching.
Absolutely.
It's not just, I'm going to throw the ball, knock down the pins, and turn around, pick up another ball, make my spare, hit reset, get another ball, start up another.
Right.
He's urging the pins to fall over, screaming, yelling. It's great.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
The animation's awesome.
I think even his bowling shirt has some kind of stallion or bull on it with steam coming out of its nose. Yeah. It's he's just awesome to watch, and he just gets so into it. So that would be a good match to go watch. I think.
I'm leaning towards Chris. He's coming back from his injury. He's bowling really well. It's just going to be hard to pick against that.
Yeah, his injury hasn't seemed to faze him. Just like his last injury. He had an injury last year, and he is back in action. Our next matchup, these guys are teammates on Friday night. Keith Beaupre against Mike Kane. They're bowling at 20th Century Lanes in Hyde Park. My guess or my assessment of this is Keith's a great bowler. He hits, when he's hitting his object pins, you're going to see scores close to 700 out of a 5-string match. I think he threw a 690 at Malden this summer, something like that. He's unbelievable. When things don't go his way, it can be a challenge for him. It's really just a matter of what happens early on in the match. Mike is cool. He's calm, collected. I think I'm going to go with Mike for this.
You know what? I actually agree with you.
Okay.
And for the same reason that I picked Chris, I'm picking Mike because he throws the slower ball at and I feel like if Keith is throwing his rocket like he always does, he's probably the hardest thrower on tour.
Most likely.
If it works for him, that's great. But if it's hard and he's having a difficult time those first few boxes, it's going to take its toll on him over the course of the match. And I think Mike will get some breaks here and there coming in with a slightly slower ball. So I think that actually gives him an advantage at 20th Century, where it also gives Chris, I think, a slight edge in his match, since they're both, all four bowlers are very close. So, I think the slow ball at 20th Century will be a little bit more beneficial than the harder throwers of Boudreaux and Beaupre.
I'd agree, because, I've seen some strange things happen at 20th Century. That's the only place I've ever seen a pin fall down, bounce off the sideball, and stand back up on its opposite end that it fell from. We did that in December of 2012 against the 20th Century guys. That was
John Hendry.
You hit the pin, it bounced off the sidewall, and it actually stood back up. Of course, that counts as a down pin, but, there's weird action there, is what I was getting at. So I think the slower ball is going to work at 20th Century. Okay, so that's our left side of the bracket. I think we did pretty well, Rich, in terms of agreeing with each other.
Yeah.
Not that we have to agree with each other. Let's check out the right side. We have our first match, Will Haskell against Bobby Whitcomb at Academy. I know Will Haskell's a great bowler. I've seen him bowling at the Worlds for Local Flava. He's got that really odd kind of backspin to his ball, but it's kind of awesome. It works really well. It just kind of stays up on the plate when it needs to and hits pins that you wouldn't expect it to hit. But Bobby Witt is Bobby Witt. Let's face it. I'm going to give it to him. I've never seen that guy. He's like a raging bull in the lanes. He's awesome. One of my favorite bowlers.
I would tend to agree with you. I was teammates with Will Haskell 2 years ago with Local Flavor, and it was fun to watch his ball in Canada. It did not have the same effect at Academy, so I'm going to say he was amazing for us up in Canada. I had the pleasure of actually bowling against him this year at Academy, and it was a tough match. Guy's tough as nails. He's got the experience, but you can't take away anything from Bobby Witt. The guy's he's just a pleasure to watch. It's just watching the pins fly around is just amazing. It's just destruction.
Yeah, he's undoubtedly a future Hall of Famer. So, I'm going to give that one to Bobby Witt, especially at Academy. Okay, our next match. This is at Pilgrim Lanes in Haverhill. I kind of consider this a toss-up, Rich. This is Jeff Walsh against Chris Capozzi. I don't think I've ever seen either of them bowl at Pilgrim. Maybe Jeff, but not Capozzi. Pilgrim can be pretty strange. I'm not sure if it would work for Capozzi. I think I'm going to give it to Jeff on this one.
We differ on this one. I'm going with Capozzi on this one. I think Jeff, from when he started with us on Candlewood, his career has taken off. He's averaging 120 right now with Riverwalk. He's bowling great.
Yeah.
It should be an excellent match between these two.
Yeah.
I'm going with the situation where Capozzi's another situation where he throws it just a little bit slower than Jeff does. So I think he might get a couple of bounces here and there at Pilgrim where it'll work out for him.
How many triples have we seen Walsh throw over the course of a couple of years?
Oh, God.
When he's right in that pocket, there's split-second strikes.
Absolutely. They're some of the fastest around.
So, all right, we disagree on this one, and that's good. All right, so the next matchup here, it's Rich Lamoni against Artie Gendro at Malden Bowlodrome. Was this fixed, Rich? Did you draw Malden just randomly?
I plead the fifth. I don't know how that happened.
Rich, I'm going to give it to you here. It's home. I know how you bowl there. I think that you'll tend to edge out Artie. Artie's a great bowler.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a 5-string match. I would be a lot more concerned with a 3-string match.
Sure.
One bad string or, a good lead. It's tough to come back from, 3 strings. 5 strings, okay. I'm going to give it to me too.
Very good. So we agree on that. Okay, now we're going to Lucky Strike for our next match. This is Tina Ward against Brandon Marks. Rich, I think you told me that Brandon commented on this about Tina, that he said that Tina is no joke.
Yes. He told me that on the lanes at Lido's, but I said to him, I have my match coming up. I hope I do well. And I hope that we have a date at Riverwalk. And he said, Tina's no joke. And he said, I'm going to have to take care of business. I'm not going to take her lightly. She's just like any of these guys in the tournament. She can bowl with the best of them. So he's not going to take it lightly. He's going to treat it just like any other match.
Good. Well, I agree with him. I'm glad he has that mindset because Tina, we saw a posting recently. She threw somewhere around a 440 in one league night. She just does that. She crushes the women's pro tour. You always see her in the final matches and Irby's videos and stuff like that. So I'm glad Brandon is not considering this a blowout or anything because Tina is a very, very good bowler. I am still going to have to give it to Brandon though. He's always, his average is very high. He's a very clutch bowler. bowler. I've seen him make some pretty impressive shots when he needs to make them. So I'm going to go with Brandon on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's built from the same mold as Mark Rishi.
Okay.
He's a very good singles bowler. He knows what to do. In the Worlds last year up in Canada, he was the 32nd seed, and he went up against Chris Harris, who nearly threw a house record up in Canada for 5. It was over 700. I think he needed, he had 4 huge strings. To say he needed a big string, he needed like a 150-ish in the 5th to break the record, and I think he came up with like 133, whatever it was.
Sure.
But Brandon beat him. And then Brandon made it to the round after that. He's just such a fierce competitor one-on-one. It's just amazing to watch.
He is. He's always amped up and ready to go. And you can tell that Brandon's a guy he loves to bowl. Absolutely loves to bowl. So I'm going with Brandon on this one. Our next matchup is Jason Kovitz at 20th Century against Mike McKeechee. Here's another, fishy one, freshie, where Jay Kovitz picks his home house. Not only does he bowl out of there, but he operates the joint as well. But no, on a more serious note, we both know how good both of these bowlers are. Right. We've seen Jay Kovitz throw a 5-bagger at Beverly on the Pro Series one year. He's just unbelievable. Throws a pretty hard ball, but he's accurate. Mike McKeechee, he's a young bowler. This is his first year on the pro circuit, and he's anchoring his team on the first year of the pro circuit. That's pretty impressive. Although he's a great bowler, I'm going to have to go with Jay, considering the home field advantage here.
Yeah, I think this really does boil down to home field advantage. You take this match and you put it in Woburn, and I'd be leaning towards Mikey because that's where his home house is.
I'd agree with
Friday
that.
night,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think this match is going to boil down to who throws the most strikes. Because they're both strike bowlers. These guys throw explosive strikes.
So we'll see what happens with that. Our next match at Pilgrim Lanes, this is Sammy D'Agostino against Larry Doucette. These guys are awesome. They're right up there with each other. Sammy is one of my friends. He's a great bowler. Larry is, he's one of the best leadoff bowlers I've ever seen in the Friday Pro League. I'm going to have to go, I think, with Sammy on this one.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that statement. I think this is another situation where a 3-string match, you can flip a coin. I think 5 strings, there's going to be one Sammy D'Agostino 150 in there that's just going to separate either, change a deficit into a lead, or it's going to make, a close match all of a sudden a 30-pin swing. Either way. So, I feel like Sammy is, the guy that's going to, especially at Pilgrim. I think he bowls well at Pilgrim. He bowls well everywhere. I shouldn't say he bowls well at Pilgrim.
Those Sammy D'Agostino 150s that you're talking about, they just come out of nowhere, and it happens every time he bowls. He's just unbelievable. So we're both agreeing that Sammy D'Agostino will advance on to the next round. Next match, Mike Legender against Irby Kafalis at Academy. I went with Irby on this. I think Irby, Irby's been tearing up all the tournaments he's been doing lately. The Senior Pro Tour, even the Pro Series last year and this year. He's subbing for Lucky every once in a while in the Friday Pro League. I think I'm going to have to go with Irby.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think this is another situation where I just know a little bit more about Irby than I do about Mike. I've seen Mike bowl. I've seen him do a handful of things, but I've seen Irby for years now.
Sure.
And he's another situation where he's a fierce singles competitor, because I really haven't seen him in too many team things. He's been in the team tournament for the Pro Series that I didn't see. Mm-hmm. He was on the other side in the team tournament that I was in, so I didn't see him bowl at all.
Okay.
So I know he's a great teammate, great guy. Love, talking to him on the lane. He's amazing. But I think just and especially because it's Academy. I think he bowls very well at Academy.
He does.
At the Ultimate Ladder, I finished in the grouping for the 3 seed, so he bowled against John Boudreau, interestingly enough, and he threw, I think, a 170, and then he had to face me, and I was like, oh, great, so I had to face Irby, and he wiped the floor with me. It was a great match, and I hung in there, but he kept it rolling. He did well. Yeah,
he hasn't missed a beat over the last couple of years. He's doing great. So we both agree on Irby there for the next round. Here's a match near and dear to us. My good friend, Brian Fournier, against Peter Pereira at Malden again. This is Brian's home house. He and I have been bowling there since probably we were 3 or 4 years old. Our parents bowled together. That's how we met, and that's all we've ever done together is bowl, bowl, bowl. I think I've mentioned this in other episodes. Brian has been incredibly confident at Malden, especially at Malden this year. A slump for him is 350s. That says a lot. I mean, he's been bowling excellent. I think for that reason, we all know who Peter Pereira is. He's been on Channel 5, since he was 18 years old. He was bowling every tournament, winning, but simply because of Brian's confidence at the current moment, I'm going to go with Brian on this.
As much as I want to pick my anchor, I don't think I can do it.
Okay.
It was a really, really tough decision. He is bowling unbelievable at Malden. I mean, that's one thing that can be said, is that Brian is a fierce, fierce competitor, and he's like a god in Malden compared to everywhere else.
And like I said, slumping at 350, that says a lot.
Yeah, that does say a lot. But I think Peter's experience, I think, is the one thing that I can say outweighs the difference, because they're pretty similar bowlers. They're both fiery on the lanes. They're both animated. They both get into the match. Mm-hmm. You know, they're both great teammates. So, I mean, you look at all these positives, and the only thing that I can say is that Pete's just been around forever. And I think in that situation, he might be able to go a little deeper if he needs a specific shot, or he needs to make up some pins. I think, if Brian gets the lead, I think Pereira's in trouble. But if it's close, I think Pereira can actually hold on and keep Brian off.
Okay, so that's a fair point. So we disagree there, that one of our few disagreements, but good analysis, I think. Our next match we have at Riverwalk Lanes. This is Mike Regal against Jimmy Keefe. Mike Regal bowls out of 20th Century, and Jimmy Keefe out of Academy, and I believe Lanes and Games in Cambridge. I've seen Jimmy Keefe throw 170s. I think I'm going to give it to him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with this. Mike, we have to remember, Mike is coming back from shoulder surgery. Mike was out all last season. So he wasn't, he's still getting back into it, and he's starting to bowl better, and he's looking good on Sunday Pro, and he's bowling well on Friday nights. But I think, another situation where the 3 strings versus 5 strings analogy, or the 1 string, I think, 5 strings, I think Jimmy has the slight edge here.
I agree. He seems to be a tad more consistent than Mike, although we've seen Mike bowl very well. So I suppose it could go either way, but my guess on this is Jimmy Keefe. Okay, so next we have at Lucky Strike, Rich Kochi against TJ DePietro, who bowls out of Metro Ball. Another example where I've seen TJ throw monster strings. He's thrown in the 190s against us, hasn't he? 180s,
twice against
twice. Me. I mean, it's that's consistency. I think the numbers speak for themselves there. Kochi's a great bowler. He threw close to a 400 one night against us, or maybe
he was over 4.
He was over 400 Friday Pro League. But I think at the current moment, TJ is a little bit more confident. I think I'm going to go with TJ.
Taking Friday night out, taking the Worlds out, TJ's been bowling great on the Pro Series. He's made a Pro Series final.
Right.
I think he's made every cut this year, if I'm not mistaken. He's just been bowling great. I mean, and it's at Lucky. I think that's the big thing, is that it's his house.
He's very familiar with Lucky. I've seen him bowl at Lucky. He bowls very well.
He works there. So, I think you gotta lean towards TJ in this case.
Okay. All right. Moving along, we have 2 more matches to talk about. We have at Woburn Bowlodrome, Bobby Schoen against Sean McKinley, Slinky, out of Lucky Strike Lanes. I think, we've seen Bobby Schoen bowl 1 or 2 years with us. I'm not quite sure. At Malden during our summer league. He's a good bowler. I just don't think the numbers are there for him. I think, given the experience of Sean McKinley being on TV, Pro Series, finals or victories, whatever. Sean McKinley, most likely, I see him moving on.
I am on the same page as you with this, but for slightly different reasons. I think this is another situation. McKinley is laser accurate. He throws such a smooth ball. And at Woburn, where, if you throw super hard, you can get punished for it. So I think his slower ball, and the same with the 20th Century situation, I think his slower ball is going to work out better for him than Bobby, who's a pretty fireball thrower out there.
Sure.
He gets all his weight behind it when he throws the ball. So I think that's going to give Sean an advantage over the course of the match anyway. So I think that's the real, I agree about the numbers, but I think bowling at Woburn, Sean's slower ball is going to give him a larger advantage than Bobby's harder throwing ball.
Okay. Our final match of the entire bracket is Dan Shoe-Gauthier from Candlepin for Kids against Jesse Jakes. They're bowling at Riverwalk, and this has been in the past both of their home houses on Friday night. So this could be an interesting match. Jesse bowled very, very well in the Pro Series a couple of years ago. I don't know that he was on the circuit last year. I didn't see much of his name. Given Shoe's numbers, he's over 400 all the time. He's very accurate. He's got the experience. He's been on Comcast show. I'm going to go with Shoe.
I agree. I think this is one of those situations where I also know the bowler a lot better, so I can make a better judgment about how he's going to bowl at that house. I bowled head-to-head with Shu at one of our matches against Riverwalk 2 last year, and he's tough as nails, so he's another one of those, doesn't give you an inch. And if he gets rolling, oh my God, does he get on fire.
Right.
I've seen Jesse bowl. Jesse's a great bowler. Moving from Leo's in Amesbury to Riverwalk is going to be a different experience for him, and I think that's where he might end up falling short.
All right, so we just evaluated 24 matchups. We've got plenty of ways to go, so we're going to kind of breeze through this. Rich, who do you have winning your next round? We're starting with the left side.
So I had Starner against Rishi, and I'm going with the experience over the youth, and I went with Mark.
Okay, I did the same thing, especially given at 20th Century. I think Mark's going to edge out Starner. It may be a close match, but Mark, in my opinion, move on. Next match, I had at least, Nick Norcross against Steve Reno Jr. at Riverwalk. I've seen Nick bowl countless strings at Riverwalk. I think his ball is going to work better there. Reno Jr. may be throwing too hard for Riverwalk.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Okay.
We're friends with Nick. We hang out with Nick.
Of course.
And so, I hear him say, I love Riverwalk. So, I mean, that's in the back of my mind, is that he has he goes there, and now he's full of confidence against whoever he's bowling. Could be Bobby Witt, could be Craig Holbrook, could be Surratt, doesn't matter. He loves Riverwalk. So I think he's just going to be amped. So I think that's going to help him carry extra pins here and there. And so, over the course of five strings, he's gonna edge out Steve Reno Jr.
I'd agree with that assessment. Who'd you have for the next matchup, Rich?
Well, I have here Dave Godwin against Sean Baker.
As do I.
I went with the youth. I went with Dave Godwin here. He's just bowling out of his mind right now, and I just see him going to Malden, and he threw a 470 at Malden.
Exactly,
so, I've witnessed both of them bowl at Malden, and I feel like Godwin just has had better success at Malden, so I see it translating in this match.
I'd agree with you for the exact same reasons. You can't deny that 470 that we saw. Not to say that's going to happen every time he goes to bowl there, but we know what he's capable of. We also know what Sean Baker is capable of. We've seen Baker in the past couple of years. He's mentioned to me that he sometimes has a back injury, and it just kind of comes and goes. He doesn't know when to predict it. He doesn't know when it's going to get better. And things like that may get in his head or something, but Baker is Baker. That's the bottom line. But
it's just fun to come up with excuses of why Sean Baker may not bowl well, since he always bowls well.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
We just say there was a pretty girl walk by, or he was drinking. Oh, wait. He does that anyway. No, it wasn't that.
Rich and I again agree so far in our bracket. For the next match at Academy, I had Nick Zuffelato, freshie, against John Boudreau. I just had to go with Boudreau. Nick bowled fantastic at Academy during the Worlds. He really did. I think, though, with Boudreau's accomplishments, his confidence, I don't doubt that Nick can beat him any day, any time. I just, for some reason, felt that during this bracket, John's going to go on to the next round over Freshie.
In a similar situation, because I had Chris actually beating Boudreau, I have Chris Winiar's beating Freshie as well.
Interesting.
And, Frank is absolutely right. Nick Freshie bowled amazing for us at Academy. But then Chris, that's his home house on Friday nights, or it was, when he was bowling full time. Mm-hmm. He bowled at Academy for years, so he owns the place. It's like a second home to him. And my thought also is Freshie bowled amazing in the middle room, which we can all agree is different than the left room where the pros bowl.
Absolutely.
So if this knockout is in the left room, then I have to give the edge to Chris. If it's in the middle room, you can flip a coin.
Okay.
So I don't know where they're going to bowl. So my thought would be it would be in the left room because it's smaller, but
sure,
who knows?
Yep, and we'll find out soon. Okay, for your next matchup, Rich, who did you have?
Let's see, I had John Winchell against Surratt, and I picked my boy Surratt to advance at Metro. He bowls well at Metro. Well, he bowls well everywhere. He bowls exceptionally at Metro, and I know Winchell's having a great season, but I got to go with Jeff.
Well, and for that reason, I'm going to disagree with you. I did have the same guys going on to the next round for this match, but Winchell is just lightning this year. I've never seen him bowl this well, and he seems to be having a great time with it. He's posting on Facebook, he's talking in the Candlepin chat group, just getting conversation going. I think Winchell's going to move on. We all know that Surratt can bowl very well anywhere, no matter where he is, but that also goes without saying for John as well. I think in a toss-up, I think I'm just going to give it to John in this one. So, we disagree. Next match, we have Chris Sacchetti, or I had Chris Sacchetti, against Mike Cain at Lucky. You know, I think Mike's a great bowler, but Sacchetti is just Sacchetti. You know, he's just determined. Chris, I've seen Chris come back from unbelievable deficits, and I've seen him dominate without a deficit. I just think he's going to edge out Mike here.
I would tend to agree. I mean, this is a matchup of two guys coming back from injury. So, you know, in Chris's benefit, if he gets by his first round match, he's going to have an extra 10 to 12 days of healing before this match. So he's going to be even stronger than he was at his match at Metro. So, you know, he's going to improve more readily than Mike, who's almost 100% now. So you'd have to think that would help his situation. Plus, Chris just crushes Lucky.
Right.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure how well Mike bowls there, but I think, you know, Chris is just, he's Sacchetti.
Yeah.
Just like Frank said.
Exactly. Okay, we're on the other side of the bracket now. My bracket shows Bobby Whitcomb against Jeff Walsh at Metro. I'm going to go with Bobby Witt. It's just Bobby Witt is Bobby Witt, the Raging Bull, as I like to call him. I've never seen anybody throw a strike and look so angrily back at his team, but then walk off the lane and just, you know, smile and just be happy as ever. But, you know, Bobby Witt is just, he's got what it takes. I think, you know, Jeff can compete with him for sure, but I think Bobby Witt's going to edge him out.
I mean, I have Chris in that match, but I would tend to agree. Bobby Witt bowls great he bowls great everywhere too. I mean, I said the same thing about Surratt, but he bowls very well at Metro. And I see the pins flying when his ball hits them. And
of course.
I mean, Chris is an amazing bowler in his own right. I think it's gonna, you know, this match will be determined in the first two strings. If Chris comes out of House of Fire, we could see an amazing upset, and that would be great to see. But I see Bobby Witt advancing to the quarterfinals.
Okay. Up next, my bracket shows you, Rich, against Brendan Marks at Riverwalk. Let's see. So I actually gave it to you. I think you're very comfortable at Riverwalk. So is Brendan. We saw him on Classic Candlepins bowling very well. But I just think that I've seen you come back from matches before, Rich, and I think if you're in that situation, not that you will or won't be, I think you have the tendency to remain calm and just pin. And you focus on what's important. So I'm going to give it to you on this one.
I'm going to give it to me too. Well, actually, there's one thing I did mention on Classic Candlepins is, I mean, it wasn't technically a head-to-head match because it was in our doubles league at Malden, but I had the greatest head-to-head match with Brandon Marks. My first year in the Malden doubles, I was bowling with Mike Spinazzola. He was bowling with Al Pecora, and we had probably the best match best doubles match anyway, that I've ever been involved in. And if memory serves, I think he edged me 658, 647. And it was back and forth every single box. If he was open, I got a mark. If I was open, he got a mark. And it was just the entire match. All 50 boxes was a contest. And I'm seeking revenge. And I like my chances. I like my chances at Riverwalk. Different houses, I would be a lot more concerned. If I was facing him at Woburn, I'd agree. I would tend to pick Brandon over myself.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
If it was Malden, I would pick me. You know, if it was Lucky, I would probably pick Brandon. So, I mean, it depends. I think it really boils down to which house we're bowling at, and I think we're fairly close at Riverwalk. So, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, your next match.
Kovitz and Sammy, two 20th century bowlers.
Okay, so we both agree there.
I have Sammy advancing at Academy because he just tears up Academy.
Yeah,
and he's bowling there on Tuesday nights, which is only going to benefit Sammy because he's used to being there.
Well, Sammy doesn't need the practice, but
right.
Yeah, I gave it to Sammy as well. Like you mentioned earlier, that Sammy D'Agostino 150 string just always happens. It doesn't not happen with Sammy. So that's not to say Kovitz can't do that, but I just think that, you know, Sam's going to give him a run for his money and go on to the next round. My next matchup, I had Irby against Brian Fournier. You know, I don't know that Brian's very confident at Pilgrim, or no, I shouldn't say I don't think he likes Pilgrim very much. I know Irby loves Pilgrim, so I gave it to Irby in a very, what I think will be a very close match.
In my situation, I went with Pereira. I see him, just that veteran bowler that he is. That should be a hell of a match. That would be a fun one to watch.
I agree.
And it's even better because it's got the stands. So we can, I can boo my teammate, my world's teammate when he misses a pin. Boo, Pereira, But it should be entertaining to say the least. They're both fiery competitors. They're both active on the lanes. So you're not going to you won't have a shortage of footage that you could put online for people to watch.
Well, I was going to say, even if you can't make it up there, I'm sure Irby will catch it on camera, so look out for that. Okay, our next matchup, I had Jimmy Keefe against TJ DePietro at Malden Bolodrome. I just think that TJ's ball is going to work a lot better than Keefe's at Malden, so I give it to TJ.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way.
Okay.
I've seen Jimmy bowl at Malden, and I've seen TJ bowl at Malden, and I think, 3-string match, flip a coin.
Sure.
But I think 5 strings, I think TJ's going to have one big string in there, the same, that's going to give him the separation that he needs.
As he always does. It always happens. So, okay, who's your next match?
I have Slink against Dan Gauthier.
Okay.
And I picked Slink to advance because it's at Lucky. It has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, so did I. I had Sean McKinley against Dan Gauthier, and I think, like you said, that has a lot to do with it. There was a Lucky doubles last year. Slink just bowled incredibly. He was unstoppable, and I think the atmosphere had a lot to do with helping him bowl that well. So, it'll be a close match. I don't think there's a doubt about that. But Slink is going to likely move on if that's what we end up with. Okay, so we're down to the quarterfinals. So who did you have on the left side, Rich, for your first match?
I have Mark edging out Nick at Academy.
Wow, okay.
Mark is an Academy bowler. He bowls there full time. He bowls on the World's team for Academy.
Yeah. Bowled very well for the World's team at
yes,
Academy.
He did. So I think just the number of strings he's thrown there gives him the advantage.
Okay, I have to agree with you. I think Nick's a great bowler, but Rich is gonna, he's got the experience, and he just knows Academy very well, so I think he's gonna move on. Our next match, or my next match in my bracket, is Dave Godwin versus John Boudreau. That's at Metro Bowl. We know how Dave bowls. The ball's gonna work very well there. I just think Boudreau's gonna edge him out, though.
Since I have Boudreau losing in the first round, I actually have Godwin edging out Chris Winiarz here.
Okay.
And making it to the what you would call the semifinals, I guess. It's not really the semifinals. It's an elimination round, I guess is what we would call it. But I see Dave, because he bowls at Metro.
Sure.
He just, years ago when he was on that Metro team, he tore that place up. So I see him doing it again.
Okay. I had, for my next match, John Winchell against Chris Sacchetti. That's at Malden. I'm going with Winchell.
I have Surrett against Sacchetti, and I have Surrett advancing. I've seen Surrett bowl at Malden. I don't believe I've seen Sacchetti bowl.
I think he's been injured every time.
So, I'm going based on the experience of seeing Jeff bowl and knowing, what type of competitor he is.
Yeah.
So I have him edging out Funfetti.
Okay, let's move on to the right side. At 20th Century, I have you, Rich, against Bobby Whitcomb. I'm sorry, I think this is where you end. It's Bobby Witt's home house. And he's Bobby Witt.
Of all the houses that I'd be facing him in, this is actually I think my best chance to win.
Okay, that's an interesting.
I feel like I'm picking me. I know I might be out of my mind. It is Bobby Witt. I understand. I respect him as bowler. He's a great, fierce competitor, and
you have to respect him.
Yeah, there's nothing but accolades you can say for him. Over the last couple of matches that we've had there, he's struggled at 20th Century, and the last match I was there, I bowled pretty well. So I'd like to think that if I can topple Brandon Marks at Riverwalk, I can tangle with Bobby Witt at 20th Century.
Okay. Well, I hope you get that far, and, we'll see what happens. Who did you have for your next matchup?
This is another situation of experience. I know they both have bowled at Woburn for years, but I think Pereira just knows the house a little bit better. So I have Pereira edging out Sammy.
Wow, okay.
Getting to the elimination round.
Okay. So I had Irby versus Sammy. It's Woburn. I bowled with Sammy on his team at Woburn. He just makes it happen every time. He's very confident there. I think he's going to beat Irby. On my bracket, we have at Pilgrim Lanes, TJ DePietro against Slinky, Sean McKinley. This is Pilgrim. This is the big stage. This is where the Channel 5 live show used to happen, among other things. I think Slinky's going to beat TJ here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. TJ is a great bowler.
Sure he is.
He anchors his team. He's there every box when they need him. But I just see Slink just seems to have, I think if you could call it desire.
Okay.
I think he has the will to just win.
And, they both have what it takes. The way this works now, we have 48 bowlers altogether. It comes down to the top 6 bowlers to avoid a bye. What they're doing is the top 6 bowlers are going to bowl at, I believe, Metro Bowl. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, Metro Bowl. It's a 5-string match, and the top 4 will advance to the final 4 bracket. It'll be 1 bowling against 4, 2 bowling against 3, which is pretty typical. Rich, who did you have for your top 4?
My top 4 does not include me.
Okay.
And it does not include Pereira.
Okay.
As we have both been vocal about the fact that we don't bowl well at Metro. And
Okay.
we don't like it. So I just see that if I have to go up against, in my bracket, Jeff Surratt, Dave Godwin, Mark Rishi, and Sean McKinley, there's no room for me.
Okay.
I see those 4 making it, and I see Pereira, who has said he doesn't like Metro. So I think that might, it'll be in my head too. So it's not like it's, it might be in his head. I don't know. I know I don't like it. I feel like I throw the same ball and get 10 different results. So I've said that to many bowlers on tour. So
okay,
I have Jeff first and Slink fourth.
Okay,
so that means Godwin second and Rishi third.
Okay, so what I had for mine was Jonathan Boudreau at 1, Bobby Witt at 4, and I have Winchell at 2. John Winchell against Mark Ricci at 3. I believe it's going to end up being Bobby Witt against John Winchell in the finals, and
not if I have anything to say about it.
Okay. And, the way things have been going, like I've been repeating myself over and over, I think Winchell's going to take it all. He's just bowling out of his mind this year.
I mean, that's an honest assessment. I mean, I have Jeff winning it, and maybe I'm just in that group of people that just thinks he's the best. And
well, he's up there. He's certainly the best.
Maybe that's why I picked him, but he does well in knockout tournaments, and it seemed like it's the safe bet.
Right.
If there were odds out there,
I suppose
I'd make $1 on my dollar. Ooh, big winner.
Okay, well, you should go into the bookkeeping business. So that is our assessment. You have Jeff Surratt winning this. I have John Winchell. We'll see what happens. We'll have to just stay tuned. This goes all the way through April, so go onto Facebook. There is a group for it. I believe it's called New England Knockout Bracket. Anyone who involved in the canopiing community can point you toward it. Request to join the group, and you'll get live updates on matches, and perhaps you can even go check out some matches. So for this podcast, that's about it for tonight. We know it was a long-winded one, but we appreciate you listening. We'd like to hear your feedback on whether or not you agree with any of these picks or disagree. You can check us out at alleychat.frankface.net. You can leave comments. You can listen to the podcast. Again, that's alleychat.frankface.net. For Rich Lamoni, my co-host, I am Frank DeLuca. We thank you for listening to Alley Chat, the internet's only candlepin bowling podcast.